Okay, the Toronto 416 condo crash. Seems like an endless panoply of things, right? But look, today we're going to do stories from the battlefield, right from people. Look, I started talking about this nearly a year and a half ago, about the possibility of it, about, how it could end up. But we're, really deep in the crisis now. And used to get a call a month from people who wanted to talk about just how bad it was for their individual situation. Then it sort of started to turn into like a call a week. And now we're probably averaging a call a day. Like, don't get me wrong. Some people will get one call, then a couple of days go by, then we'll get two calls. But we're getting a lot of calls. And some of I'll say it straight out, some of the situations are pretty tragic. I know that it's a real common theme in the replies to these stories on this channel that, they're stupid, or they're greedy, or they're this, or they're that. And sure. And all the other big replies that you see in the comments section are, well, I'm so much smarter. I saw this coming. Okay, look, we probably don't need everybody to talk about how smart they are because they didn't do something. It's probably unnecessary. But I'm going to tell you, some of this stuff is pretty tragic. Okay, and by the way, losing $500,000 in the stock market is tragic too. It is. Okay, we all worked hard, or somebody worked hard at some point to earn the money. So when something goes really wrong, and in certain situations, it's really long-term devastation for people's financial lives. It really is. So a couple of stories from the battlefield. Call comes in about a situation, pretty sad in a different sort of way. It's the only rental condo purchase this woman had ever made. I mean, she put money into RSPs. She did some mutual funds. She did some TD Waterhouse stuff on her own. Did okay, not bad. She's retired. She had a defined benefit pension plan on top of TFSA. She's at an executive level when she retired, and she had savings, and she was okay with her investment returns, but everybody she knew talked about, so many people she knew, so many, things she observed was, great success that people would have buying condominiums in Toronto. And, she did everything, very carefully in terms of looking at the buildings and trying to understand the quality of the buildings and seeking out a good representative when she finally bought, and all that stuff is great. So she bought in 2000 a condo in a pretty good location for $735,000. Small. It's like sub 600 square feet. And she's already knows she's lost $200,000 on it. She knows she has. It's coming up for closing in the summer, late summer, and she knows she has got a huge shortfall of appraisal. I explained the idea of blanket appraisals to her, and she thought she might investigate that. The tragic part is, she can afford to find a way to close because she has assets. Like assets you could liquefy. And she has, but she's got income, enough personal income. But the sad part is she's recently discovered she has metastatic breast cancer. So she's got a couple of years. She thinks she could have a couple of years. Okay. It's in the very early, it's metastatic, but it's in the pretty early stages. And some of it looks like it's pretty slow moving lung cancer. So she could have a number of years, but it just hit me like she could walk away from this, but she's worried about her daughter. Don't want to leave a problem for my daughter. So if we could get this closed, even though I'm going to have to cash out some assets and put it in and close, that would be good. And because I don't want any sort of litigation hanging over my daughter. And I thought to myself, well, that's a sort of a noble thought, but it's a sad case of people who can't afford it and will close. That's why some of these close. That's why a bunch of these dead losses on new condos, new construction condos, they close because they can, and they don't want to create problems. They hate problems more than they hate their losses. And she will lose money every month when she rents it out. She's going to lose a ton. Other one, very, very different. People who bought in 2020 again for $830. It's already down 200, but it's just they went all in. They went all in. They have another condo that closed late last year, and they had to scramble to put together the money for that. They bought a student housing thing in London, Ontario, and it looks like they're underwater on the mortgage on that one, since all the student housing is sort of gone, sort of quietly collapsing. If your student housing was oriented to a community college, you're in trouble. And there was just way too many built, way too much interest in student housing in places like London and KW and Guelph. And, the regular universities are still need student housing, but it was just overbuilt with the expectation of the community colleges. So they're in trouble on that one in London. And they have constantly refinanced their principal residence to create the down payments and the deposits. And last time around, just to come up with the money to close on this already depreciating condo that they bought pre-construction a little earlier than this unit. But this unit is the straw that breaks the camel's back. This unit coming up for $830 in November, December. They cannot possibly get a mortgage. They cannot possibly come up with the cash. It is just, they've got to walk away. Their only solution is consumer proposal bankruptcy. That's it. So now you might say, well, wow, those people were crazy. They went all in on real estate. They got over leveraged. They weren't thinking right. They agree. They agree. They agree. They actually are reasonable people. They agreed that they had a sales agent who was constantly coming up with new ideas over the last, several years, since 2018. And they went along with that person, and it's just going to cost them sort of everything. They will probably be able to stay in their principal residence because it's mortgaged out, the value's fallen, and they can keep it in the consumer proposal. So there's two examples. People who are going to close, people who are going to go bankrupt. That's what's out there.